Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jolie Higazi podcast. Today, I have a wonderful episode in store for you, which is really just more of a conversation that you'll get to overhear, almost like you're a fly on the wall, between me and a dear friend and a wonderful coach. His name is Chris Marr. Chris Marr, he's also known as the Authoritative Coach. He is the author of Become an Authoritative Coach, Stop People Pleasing, Challenge Your Clients, and Be Indispensable. He is someone who you can trust to say what needs to be said and to say what he sees and to do it in a way that you can receive it with kindness and with directness as well. And this is actually what he teaches to the people he works with. While he's based in Dundee, Scotland, as you'll be able to tell from his amazing accent, he works with clients internationally. He's renowned as the person to go to when you're looking to become a better leader, a better manager, a better coach. And what we realize in this conversation is just a better human being. Uh, in this conversation, we really dive into less about coaching, but more just about how do we be the best version of ourselves. And part of that is about people pleasing. How do we get to the root of it? How do we navigate our own personal development when it comes to developing self-awareness and continuing to grow and practice emotional regulation as well? This was just a really great conversation where Chris talks about some of his own story, some of his dark times and his dark moments, and how he got through those, and what he now does with his clients to really bring the best out of them as well. He has so much great stuff to share with you all today. This will probably just be the first of many conversations we have together. So please enjoy this conversation with Chris Marr.
Dude, I contradict myself all the time. I'm okay with that. Like I just hope that I change my opinion about things, you know?
That's a perspective I don't think a lot of people have that I think would be
No.
really valuable.
Right.
What do you think it is that like people are so afraid of changing their mind? They feel like they have to, it's like their life is built on it and they're
Yeah,
afraid.
because it's like it becomes part of their identity or something like that. Like they can't go back on it. All their friends that they've made are all have that one thing in common with each other. There's a lot of risk. It seems like high stakes to change your opinion on something, perhaps, you know? So they've sort of maybe built their life around that opinion that they have. And therefore it's very difficult to change it, and they just get deeper and deeper into it. But I think the a great example of growth mindset is your ability to change your mind about stuff, to have a more mature opinion about something because you grew, because you learned something new. I think another example of this as well, it's just sort of linked, is this idea of being able to learn from people that you don't like. And I think we see this a lot just now where you see someone online. I won't say it applies across the board, but like you see someone online, you don't like that guy, and therefore everything he says is stupid.
Mhm.
Whereas you can look at somebody and not like the way they look or they dress or the way they speak or turn up in the world, but everything they say and everything they've done is truly successful and smart. Can I learn from that person too? And you can imagine how if you're not willing to learn from people you don't like, or you're not willing to learn from someone you have judgments about, then you are not going to change your opinion that often either, right? So it's kind of linked. And I think it comes back to that growth mindset idea, being able to be open to perhaps being wrong, or being open to the fact that your opinion needs to change, and that might come from learning from people that you wouldn't normally hang out with or wouldn't normally identify with, or people that you don't like. I think that's part of it, at least. What do you think?
I think what you're saying is super relevant, especially in our culture here in the States right now. Uh, Everyone is very divided
Hmm.
and it's very heated. And it feels like there's no room to change your mind because people are fighting for like core human values. And they just see the other side as against their intrinsic way of looking at life. So there's a really hard time to even have a conversation, never mind learn or admit they're wrong. What would you say to people in those camps that are so heated on something that they're like they can't change? This is, what do you mean? This is what is right.
Right. Well, I mean, there's something about can I? So there's I always try and find a gray. What's the gray in all of this? Where's the gray area? Where's the, if we're talking black and white. So my immediate thought is, well, if I'm not willing to change, can I put that to one side and still be curious and listen to others, even though it doesn't matter what they say. Like, imagine I'm absolutely locked in on my opinions and my beliefs, and I feel really strongly about them. Do I project them onto others and debate and fight about it? Or can I be so secure and self-assured in the ideas I have that no matter what you say to me, Jolie, won't disturb me? And I can actually listen to you tell a story or share an experience or share an opinion or an idea that completely rallies against everything that I know and believe and be absolutely okay. Like, and be able to regulate my emotions in that moment and not be affected by it. Can I be an adult here? And like with a mature self-assuredness about it. Not in a posturing way either, not like I'm better than you, but actually be just totally fine about the fact that you have a different opinion than me, or a different story or a different experience than I do that completely goes against everything I know. Even if I'm not willing to change my opinion, can I still be self-assured in that moment? Like that whatever you say isn't going to shake me foundationally. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like I think people are the reason we've got to, why do I feel attacked right now? Well, the reason you feel attacked is not because someone's attacking you, it's because you are like you've got your defenses up. You don't feel self-assured. You feel like you need to fight, you know? And I don't feel like that ever. I don't feel like I need to justify myself to anyone. I don't feel like I need to fight for anything. I'm actually quite happy taking it all in, and I'll decide if what you're saying has some where it needs to land with me. Does that make sense? It's like there's a bit of self-control around it all. So I think if there's division and there's this defense attack type relationship between different opinions, someone needs to be able to break the mold there and say, can I actually sit in a room with 10 people or many people that have a completely different opinion than I do and not feel attacked and not feel like I need to be defensive and not feel afraid, because I think that just shows that maybe you don't believe what you believe as much as you think you do. You're not as secure in your thoughts as you think you are. That'd be my opinion on it or thoughts on it, or
Hmm.
what I would see in terms of like human behavior.
I I totally agree, and I wonder if some of it is uh, maybe not. I'm thinking of some people in my life, particularly, who are very in their, this is right. It's just a human right. And I wonder if it's
Mm,
not so much about being secure in theirs, but like you said, they don't have the emotional regulation to hold space,
yeah.
or the fact that somebody sees things differently and they immediately judge to uh disdain or hate or frustration or defensiveness at that other idea
Mm,
without, like you said, having the space to be curious and even want to be in the same room to hear anything this other person has to say.
yeah.
And yeah, that creates this whole divide that we're seeing now where people just isolate themselves from anyone who thinks differently
Yeah,
than.
their worlds get smaller as a result. That's what happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of like I've got these experiences in my head. Like I will go to Like I went to visit a friend in the States. I just happened to be there on a Sunday. I went to his church. I'm not a man of the church or of religion, and not this religion anyway. It's like I went for the experience. I was like, well, let's go see what it's all about. It's like cool. It's quite exciting, you know. Will I ever? I'm not going to be converted. It's like, am I okay being in these environments, learning from how other people live their lives. These are good people. This is another thing as well. It's like most people are good inside. And it's just about if you don't like somebody or if you immediately throw up these judgments. I try to check myself on this all the time because I think there's a humanness about it. It's like you immediately judge. Like I don't know that we can, it's like an emotion, right? It shows up and you have to control it as opposed to trying to never make it happen. It's almost like, and I try my best to say I just don't know that person well enough yet, as a sort of as a filter to help me be operate better in the world, as and less hate and less judgment and less projecting that on other people and be like, I actually just don't know them that well. That's all it is. I just need to get to know them better and maybe I'll like them. But I can probably make a good assumption that they're good and they're not going out of their way to attack me deliberately. No one makes a mistake on purpose. That type of these are kind of recurring thoughts for me. Brené Brown was really good at this as well for me. She gave me not personally. I learned something from her, which was, you know, she told this story about she said something like the question she asks is, do you believe people are doing the best they can?
Mm.
And some people are like, absolutely not. There's people I know that are just living, they're definitely not doing the best they can. Their life is terrible. They're not looking after their children, they're taking drugs, they're alcoholics, whatever. Whatever the piece is of you looking at someone else's life and saying they could do better. The whole point is like, but what if you looked at their life through the lens of they are doing the best they can? Then you get the compassion, the empathy, and it's like you operate better in the world because they might be able to do better, and maybe they aren't, like if you were to score them out, doing the very best they can. But if you just see it through that lens, it makes you operate better in the world around people who need help, right? That are like ultimately they are doing the best they can. So I think these are all these doing the best they can. No one makes a mistake on purpose. No one's out to get you. Try and see your judgments as a light to go towards, right? It's like, well, actually, let's go disprove these just judgments about other people and step into it. So I'm not perfect, but these are the tools that I use to try and navigate divisiveness. I don't want to be a divisive person. I have this, like, in my head, I've got this picture of like trying to turn debate and argument and stuckness into movement somehow, right? I always want to see if we can we move this on, can we move towards something better, conversationally or relationally. So I don't know those are some of the tools that I try to use if I'm in a good, like my head's in the right space, the healthy tools.
This is why I love talking to you. I feel in some sense like I'm like talking to myself with some of the same perspectives. I think some of the challenge with all that you're saying here is then it removes this person that we can use as the enemy. So if we believe
Mm.
actually that everyone is doing the best they can, who can we get angry at? Who can we like fight against? Who can we like take our like great like our who's the bad guy in this story then?
Mm. Yeah.
I think people
I
want something to fight against, right? It gives it a clear meaning. And if you're
the
saying like,
villain.
and I believe this as well, right? But if you believe that everyone is generally a good person, right? They're good at heart and they're doing the best they can, then it's like, wait, who's the bad guy?
There's a really well, I know I have an answer to this. I don't know if you want it or not,
Yeah,
but
I'd love it.
if it's a real question or not.
Yeah, yes.
Well, the real answer to that question is the person in the mirror, right? So if you're angry, nobody's making you angry. There's something triggering you from your experiences that you're now projecting into an emotion or a behavior or whatever, right? That's it's coming from inside. So one thing you have to recognize is that it's all a reflection of you, what's going on in you. So if I'm angry, it's because I'm the problem, or something's problematic with the tension in me. If I'm resentful, nobody made me resentful. I have expectations that I haven't communicated, or boundaries that I haven't communicated correctly, or wherever the resentment's coming from. I made a decision at some point that I now realize was a bad decision, and now I resent it. It's like it's not your fault, Jolie. It's me. It's
Mm.
like it's some like Jocko Willink is a good example of this, right? Willink is a good example of this. I know some people, again, one of those characters where you go, I don't like the army, I don't like these big, white men type of thing, but he has really got some great insights, and one of the insights that he has is extreme ownership. This idea of extreme ownership is like there is nobody to blame. You might feel like there's somebody to blame, but actually it's all on you. It's all on you. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, what's going on in me right now? What do I need to figure out? What do I need to get a handle on? How's this showing up for me? Why am I so triggered right now about this thing? Why am I sad, angry? The other part of this, I think, Jolie, as well, is like our vocabulary around emotions is so incredibly like being it's reductive. Like it's like angry, sad, happy. What, give like there's layers, there's resentment and fury and annoying and frustration, and there's like layers in there. It's like if you could like one of the things that people need to absolutely do is it like enhance their vocabulary around emotion, right? One of the great tools I use with clients is the wheel of emotions, right? Just Google it, just bring it up, and you'll be like, how do you feel about this right now? Angry, right? Let's go a layer deeper. Right, now let's go another layer deeper. It's like, where is the anger? What is it? And like anger, resentment, two different things coming from different places, triggered by different experiences, right? So, anyway, way down a rabbit hole there. But like it's about learning about your own emotions and how they're showing up for you in certain moments and recognizing that if you can own them, that's your gateway into being a better person and being ultimately being happier in your life as well. Can I be happy at home even though the kids don't do what I want them to do? Like, a good example of this with parenting is like, why do the kids never switch the lights off? And it's like, what's that all about? It's like it costs like I know electricity fine costs money, but it's not costing us so much money that the lights all need to be off. Like I need to get angry about the lights being off. Do you see what I'm saying? It's control. And then you're like, well, what am I trying to control? Other people. Why am I trying like let's go into the peel the onion back. And then you just realize it's got zero to do with the kids, zero to do with the lights, and everything to do with whatever is going on inside of you and how that's showing up for you. And it's like spending time understanding, being just I call it like a frequency, like on an old radio, right? It's like dialing in your self-awareness about all like it's getting more and more refined. It's like a it's like a life's work, but the more you can do in there, I think the more you realize that 99 times out of 100, it's just got nothing. It's nothing to do with anybody else, and it's almost always to do with what's going on with you. And so, extreme ownership, I like the idea of it to be able to say, "There's nobody to blame. There's nobody to fight. I can't put this on somebody else. I'm not the victim." It's like, can I go and be my own coach, essentially? Can I coach myself through this? If not, ding ding, get a coach, get a therapist, get somebody to help you, I think I think honestly that's how I would tackle this idea of like if you can't go look, if you walk out of the house in the morning and you're looking for somebody to blame and you're going to find somebody,
Mm.
right? Just you walk around the corner and something's going to piss you off and you're going to find a reason to be angry. But is that really how you want to live your life? right? Just blaming other people, kicking the can down the road, just a miserable, grumpy, unhappy, just carrying all of this. It's like, that's not it. That is not it. The world hasn't really changed. This is another thing. I've studied the Stoics for over 10 years now. This is, in fact, a lot of the stuff I've shared with you so far is very Stoic in nature. The biggest misunderstanding people make about the Stoics is that they think that they were emotionless. But that's not it. They were just able to recognize and do something with the emotion in the moment, right? So it's like, how can you close the gap between the emotion showing up and you responding well with it, right? And I think when I think about the Stoics, I do think about like I've got the busts here. I don't know if you can see these, but I've got Marcus
Oh yeah.
Aurelius, I've got Seneca. These guys lived 2,000 years ago, and the stuff they talk about is like life was the same. There was sick people, there was alcoholics, there was drug abuse, there was arguably a lot more bad stuff going on, wars, plague. Marcus Aurelius, 7 of his kids died. It's like bad, really bad. And they had to work at it back then, how to operate as a good person every day. Like, can I live a good life every day, even though there's all this bad stuff happening? And so, has life changed all that much? I don't know. I think people still like, they're still operating with an old operating system, essentially, right? Go into the world, find somebody to hate, somebody to fight. It's like, it's really just turn around, look in the mirror, figure yourself out. Where's this all coming from? I'm simplifying it, obviously, but that's the work. To me, that's the work that needs done. It's not, you're not going to find answers by fighting the people around you and trying to, be a victim in your own story.
Mm. Yeah, you made me think of this funny saying that if you walk outside and you see someone that's an asshole, they're probably an asshole. But if you walk outside and everyone you see is an asshole, chances are it's you that's the asshole.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly it. I often write to myself. I do this exercise every morning called morning pages, right, which is from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And I've done it for a long, long time. And I've journaled in some capacity for many, many years. I just change the tool sometimes, I'll do something, whatever. Or if I get a quiet Sunday morning, I might do some more different journals and tap into different things. But I oftentimes the writing goes from like the emotion through to the blaming, through the very almost always the last sentence says, "Oh, it's me that's the problem." That's like almost always the case. I hope nobody ever reads like, I hope that no one reads my journal when I die and somebody has removed the last paragraph because I
Oh.
do sound like an asshole. Because it's the last paragraph that's the bit where I learned the lesson that I needed to learn that day, which is always, okay, so Chris, how are you going to, what are you going to do? What are you going to change about the way you're handling this? Like it's the problem is you're in this. It's like, it almost always comes back to, all right, okay, so how do you handle this better? Like, you can't control people, you can't control the weather, you can't control the politics. You need to operate within it. How are you going to do that? What's that look like?
Hmm.
So, yeah, this is
I
another
think
tool
I
then.
think anyone who journals can probably relate to that panic that you just explained, where it's like if somebody read my journals without the right context, and it's like a
Feel
panic
like a
that would
psychopath,
happen.
probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm a mess in my journal. But that's what it's for. That's what it's for. I'd rather be a mess in my journal than a mess in my life.
You are probably, Chris, one of the most self-aware people that I know, and I think that's part of why I gravitate to you, why so many of your clients and friends gravitate to you, because you do have such a perspective of able to know yourself and emotionally regulate and also bring like such wisdom. And I'm curious, where did that start for you? Have you always been that kind of person, or did you have some journey along in your life that led you to become more of that self-aware, introspective person?
I think I've always been introspective and I've always been introverted as well in terms of behaviors. But I've also been, I think, fortunate enough to have the ability to find a way to appear extroverted as well, like to speak on stages and, command teams and do the work that I do, right? So I've got like a work persona which I can switch on, but I'm mostly introverted. And on a bad day, no, I say a day where I'm feeling very like introverted, like I really need time. Like I've figured out this a lot about myself. Is like Carol say to me, "You okay, Chris?" And I'll say, "I'll be fine as long as nobody talks to me." Like, so I'm not an asshole. I'm not being an asshole here, but I definitely am feeling the it coming in, if that makes sense, right? The room's getting smaller, and I have this spectrum. Like I get more and more self-aware of it as time goes on. But the reason I'm saying that is because I do love to spend time on my own. So I'll get up at 4:30 in the morning just to get 2 hours to myself, right before anybody gets up, because I love to sit and I love to write and I want to figure out what's going on. And I think some of the tools that we've mentioned already have absolutely been the unlock to self-awareness. So I would argue that there's a part of my actual being has made it easier for me to gravitate towards these things. So I would say like 2010 is probably 2011 is when I probably started doing more of the journaling. That's right. That was the sort of period. Um, and it still took me, oh, I don't know, probably another 7 or 8 years before I started to really get to the point where I was starting to understand myself better. It took a long time. I felt like I was I felt like a slow learner. Slow learner. Took me a while to get it. Um, but I never gave up, and I think that was key. The so I think a couple of moments in my life where I would call them like just like I don't know what they're called, but they're sort of triggers, I would say. Are I think those were the moments that were like just shook me into thinking like I need to think differently or I need to make better choices or I need to do better or something like that. Just there's something else I need to figure out here. So I got caught up in a storm when I was 25. So I'm 43 now, right? So this is almost 20 years ago. When my brother was killed, right? My brother Colin was killed when he was 23 years old. This is 2007. Summer 2007, he was killed. And so I'm 25 years old, but I've always felt, so I'm 43 years old now, but I've always sort of felt younger than my age. I've always looked a bit younger than my age as well, and behaved a little bit younger than my age. And there's definitely something in there for me where I'm a bit naive compared to where I probably should be. And so when I was 25 and my brother died, I didn't know. I was just swept up in the whole thing, right? No idea, like, really what to do or how to manage. I don't know if anybody would, but there was a sort of level of maturity missing for me there. I think I didn't fly off the handle. I just didn't figure it out. I didn't take the time to sort of like, right, this is grief. This is what this is. My gran had died 6 months before that, um, but I was just swept up in it, right? Just a fog. So there was that moment. So this is 2007. And then my first marriage was a disaster and I got divorced. It didn't last a year. So, and that was many years later. So and even by then I had felt like I was still making like that was a significantly big, like me saying like I made some bad choices here and I don't know how I got here. Like, so I would say for a lot of my life, and this is like, I think there's a mission in here for me, which is I just don't want to live the rest of my life just being swept up by everything that's going on around me, or being swept up by the next person that loves me, or the next person that wants to treat me nice, or whatever it is, or the next person that wants to give me money, or give me a job, or whatever it is. I don't want to, I want to have my agency, I think is probably what I'm getting at. It's like, a lot of that self awareness had to come through some big moments, having kids, getting married, getting divorced, my brother dying, those things, I think, and I think even starting my own enterprises, going through difficult things, I think is what I'm saying, right?
Mm.
You can get swept up in all of it and never really learn anything. And I think I sort of at some point I think the point I made a decision was probably quite late, a lot later than I think, probably about 2016 or something like that, 2015. I think that's when I realized that I really need to go to work on myself properly. And that was, I think that year was the year that I journaled every single day from that point forward, pretty much. So it's probably 10 years ago, a little later than I first thought there. I'm just thinking back because my business wasn't working very well. I was getting married, but obviously, I think deep inside of me, I knew that wasn't going to work out. And then, I was still trying to figure out how to deal with my brother's death and stuff like that. There's just a whole story to that, too. It's still an ongoing thing 20 years later. And I think at that point, that was when I needed to figure out who is Chris. And I was asking a lot of big questions, even in my working profession, like, what is it that I want? What kind of life do I want to live? Um, what am I good at? Like, what am I supposed to do around here? Um, and that's when I discovered the Stoics. Like, I can't not mention the Stoic philosophy because it's been so significant in, like, I literally journaled every day in my Stoic journals for years at length. I read the books multiple times. It became a part of my life. And that really helped me to like peel back the layers on what was going on inside of me and learning how to just navigate the anger, navigate resentment, navigate guilt, navigate the future whilst not holding on to the past. Um, and I've got a good head on me now. I think that I can accept what's happened and I can also feel quite like I'm looking forward to what's next. Like, so I'm quite future orientated now instead of past. So, I think all those things are kind of in the melting pot of like, how do you become more self-aware? It's like, you have to like work on it. Like, it's a job. It's like, it needs work. It doesn't sort of just happen. And there's been so many books and so much journaling and so much writing and so much therapy and so many difficult moments and bad decisions and so many feelings and difficult conversations and bad choices and all of that is kind of like all in the melting pot of 43-year-old Chris Marr. Did he learn anything from it? Did it, you know what I mean? It's like you do have to ask yourself these questions like, well, okay, did I learn anything and did I use it to try and be better and did I figure anything out? I think that's what wisdom is, right? It's the wisdom piece is the output of figuring out what it all meant. So, and I still work on it today. I did my morning pages this morning. I still do it every day, and it's still a work in progress. So this conversation is part of the work as well. Does that feel like not very concise answers on these ones, I'm afraid.
No, it's beautiful. When people see you or when they see people today that are very regulated and have agency and have a future-oriented mindset and curiosity and openness, like we're talking about, I think there can sometimes be an assumption to just say, that's just who he's always been.
Oh,
So
yes.
when you paint that picture, that's no, it hasn't always been this way. And often it took things getting really bad for
Really
things
bad,
to
yeah.
change. And it sounds like the mix of the divorce and your brother dying and just life in general at that point, it was just the right amount of pain and stimulus to prompt you to say, I need to do something different.
Yeah, I honestly wish I'd done something different sooner. Right, I wish somebody had said to me as soon as, not as, maybe not as soon as, but like when my brother died, I wish that someone said to me, you should go to therapy. Like I wish someone just said, like, this is part of the process. So you have a close family member dies, this is what we do. We go we go and we speak to somebody about it and they figure it out. You know, like I wish somebody had, nobody did that. And I'm talking like almost 20 years ago, therapy and help like that wasn't really in the recent past, still wasn't really, and it still isn't today, I don't think. It was like, I'm not saying that it was stigmatized then, it certainly was, but what I mean is it just wasn't a normal course of help. And it absolutely should be. You know, it's like people need help in moments like this. Like, and I love my parents and I love my family, but nobody, no, not, they were not the right help either. They can't help me. And why? Because they need help for their own grief and they can't help me in mine. And I'm saying, Kat, maybe there's a, you know, there's maybe some flexibility in there, but generally speaking, not suitable to help me through mine whilst they're going through theirs. And so I think that was a big miss. Like, I don't, there's no regret or anything like that. I just know that if today somebody in my life was that was going through a similar experience, I would absolutely be talking to them about how to process that in a way that is healthy for them.
Do you think you would have went if someone suggested it? Were you open
I
enough?
think so. I mean, I think it's not that I was open, because what I was swept away with it, remember? So I think if somebody told me to do go do something, I probably would have just done it. I don't think I would have fought it. In fact, I would probably have been, I reckon I would have been, yeah, I know it's like one of those questions, what we tell your younger self, you know, younger self who says, don't be so stupid. I don't listen to older people. No, I think so. I do think so. If somebody had said, like, for example, I th so again, only about my experience really is like I don't know that we ever talked about therapy in the house. I don't know that my parents have ever had therapy, you know? Like I don't know that it's ever been a thing. However, because I've been through something like this and I have been through therapy and I have got a therapist, that if Luna or Spencer or any of the kids needed, I would probably be one of the first people to recommend that that would be a course of action for them, right? Because it can be helpful for them in these moments only because I've had the, like, I went and got my own therapist. I pay for my own therapist. It's a private arrangement, right? I tried to find the right person for me. Nobody helped me with that. Nobody was egging me on to go do it. I did it off in my own volition, you know? So,
How
like,
did,
I guess that says something about that, which is that I know that I need that type of help.
how did that therapist help you process all of that grief?
Well, so the reason, actually, it's interesting because the reason I got a therapist in the first place was actually work related, not well,
Maybe
work
can
related.
you paint this paint
Yeah.
a picture of what did Chris look like in his daily life? Maybe take us to a moment where we can see like this is a guy that's maybe a little unhinged and like needs some help of some sort. Like what did it look like for you? How were you interacting with the world, with yourself as you're processing all of this chaos?
Yeah. So I got my therapist came to me in COVID. So it's actually really interesting because I, as much as I loved COVID for the fact that it leaned right into my, like, I'm happy. I already work from home remotely because I worked remotely since 2013 or something like that, right? I've worked from home for a long time. So someone telling me that I can't go out is like, awesome.
An
Great.
introvert's
Cool. No worries.
dream.
Yeah, I'm fine about it. And like Sophie, my 18-year-old stepdaughter, had a total meltdown because she couldn't see her pals. I was like, we live completely different lives. Like your life is built around your friends and going out. Mine's is not. Like I'm quite happy to be at home. So as much as like, and I don't know that at the time I would have said that to anybody that COVID is actually good for me. But the truth is I don't know that it was. I think from a work-related perspective, it worked fine because I already worked from. I didn't. Not, my life didn't change dramatically. But I was taking 2 hour walks around the park, trying to talk myself into going to work. Like there was a lot of bad stuff going on. I don't really know if it was. there's a lot of factors, environmental factors, me thinking that as an introvert I don't really need to see people, not not a good conclusion to make, not correct conclusion, lack of connection. So the first thing my therapist taught me was, number one, what did you do today that you made you feel good, like you achieved something? Where did you have connection in your day to day? There's a third one I can't remember. I journaled on that for almost a year. Every day I'd write down the three things and I'd say, where was connection? What do I feel like I've made an achievement? I can't remember the third one for some reason, but there was these three things that she got me to do. Every single day I did that to try and work myself out of this. I was definitely in a hole. And the way that I can describe it, I drew it out actually, was like being in the bottom of a well, a water well. So like you're right in the darkness and the cold at the bottom. And it almost felt like there was a rock. Someone had tied a rock boulder to the front of my head. Like, and my head would be like, it's like if I'm walking, I'm sort of like my head's going down like this. It's what it felt like. It was a depression of sorts, I think. That's when I got a therapist. That's when I needed help. And it was manifesting itself as work related. So that's why I sort of laughed when I said work related. It's not work related. Work's work. It's me in the work that's the problem. So the or part mostly um how I'm responding to what's happening in my working life. And so that was the original reason that I got a therapist in the first place was, and it was quite obvious in the end, I think quite quickly obvious that I was just missing some really important things in my life, that I needed to tap into. And so she knew from the very beginning though that journaling was the way for me to figure that out. She was like, here's the tool, and I'd be like scribbling away and just working on it every day and working it out while working it out. So, a day in the life of me before I got a therapist there, I think COVID was one, definitely a major factor, but that hole in the well, I can still remember, I still know exactly what it feels like because I'll still use the language when I feel like I'm having a bad day, which get less and less all the time now. I'll literally say I'm slipping into a hole. And it's a dark place for me. Some days I'll lose a couple of days on it. Less so now, but it's like a depression. Um, and I slip. It's a slipping. It's a slipping. I slip
Mm,
into it, and I think things like journaling and going to the gym, and I would say in the last year after started my own enterprise as well, I feel like I'm back to being a creator and a builder, and I've got again. Look, I think there's a common theme in here, which is agency. Like I feel like I'm doing my own thing for me, and I things that I want to do when I want to do it, and the things that I enjoy I do, and the things that I don't. And if I really need to do it for my business, I'll just hire somebody that does that thing. It's like I'm very much in my place where I'm like 43 years old, knowing what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm not supposed to be doing.
mm,
And that feels quite good to be in a spot where like I just get to do what I like for the most part. And I get to choose, and there's agency around all of that too. I think back when I got like had that, there was the signals that things weren't quite going well. I think the lack of agency in my life was probably the a major player.
mm.
Feeling like I call them obligations with a capital O. I fucking hate obligations. When I know I'm having a rough time when everything feels like an obligation. Like I mean everything. We're going to visit fill in the blank. Fuck. Why? Or we need to go to the DIY store to get. I'm like, I don't want to go. Or like things like that. I, I find it quite hard sometimes to navigate daily life when I'm clearly tapped out. You
Yeah.
know, that spectrum of introvert to extrovert. I don't know if people use that as a kind of heuristic. It's not when you dig into it. It's not. There's a lot of nuance in there, but I think for the most part, it's like I'm I'm I've got nothing. My tank is empty now. All even the simplest things feel like an obligation that I am resisting. That's a signal to me that I need time on my own. I need to go into my cabin and just write and read a book and listen to music, play my guitar, like do the things that allow me to be me. Um, One of the things I figured out about myself is that I'm a being person, and it's my therapist gave me this language. I find it quite helpful. So the tension I have at home is that Kara is a doing person and I'm a being person.
What's that
So
distinction?
so broadly speaking, it's like Kara likes to do stuff. So up, let's get stuff done. Jobs, 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 lots of jobs to do. Whereas I'm like, I'll get up and I'll be like, let's put a pot of coffee on and sit down and just do some journaling, some reading, put the stove on, relax, you know, have a long lunch, watch a lecture, uh, like just I like to be. You ever heard someone say this? Leave me be. I don't know if that
Mm.
translates. Like, leave me be. That's me. I'm the bee. Leave me to be, right? Don't get me to do when I'm trying to be. There's a real tension there. But again, it's like I guess all about self-awareness because if I know that about myself, I can be quite secure in that moment. So if for example somebody's trying to get me to do something, say, look, I will do it, but it's not happening right now. Is that okay? Because if you need to get this done right now, by all means go and get it done. But I'm not going to feel guilty about the fact that you want it done now and I don't want to do it right now. I will do it, but it won't get done right now. Does you see what I'm saying? It's like knowing who you are
Mm.
without feeling and be able to communicate that without feeling guilty about the fact that that might not be what somebody else wants you to be in that moment. It's like actually a bit of a superpower, actually, I think. I get really confident about it. Like, you can be frustrated and angry and all busy, busy, busy if you want to be. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to step into that. I don't want that. I want headroom. I want plans. I want time. I want agency. So, again, it's all quite back into that sort of self-awareness space where we're sort of dialing all of that in. I don't know what your question was now, but that was
Well, I imagine it's taken a lot of
inside.
trial and error for you to even
Oh yeah.
realize, oh, when I do, I'm drained. I'm exhausted. I'm not my best self. So
Yeah.
it takes some time. You know, we joke about parents not getting the manual for their kids. I'm saying, like, why didn't we get the manual for ourselves to know?
Right. Oh
And
man.
what I'm hearing is you have the self-awareness to know and almost like have a mapped out as if like you created a manual, like took notes on yourself that you
Right.
know that I do some of this with my clients. I call it like a red, yellow, green, like a traffic light where it's like, okay, what are the signs that you're in a red zone? What would you
Yeah, I like
start
that.
seeing, right? For you, it's, you know, everything's an obligation. For me, I know for me, I have my dog, and my dog's always the same, like even keel. But there are some moments where I'm increasingly frustrated by my dog. And I'm walking and I'm like, hurry up. Why are we taking so, come
Mm,
on. And I know that if I'm getting frustrated at my dog, that's a sign that there's something else going on that I
something's
need to
off, yeah.
something needs to be recalibrated there. So
Right.
I'm hearing that you have that spectrum for yourself to know, oh, this is a sign that Chris needs to retreat, recharge before you can
Mm,
be your best self.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think that's really cool. I think the idea is like what are you self-aware enough about the little moments where you're clearly need to help yourself or something in that moment. There's something there, right? It's like, yeah, it's all about self-awareness. Like we're back to what we really started off with, right? It's like, do I know myself enough to respect myself? This is it. It's like when I think about this, I'm thinking, do I know myself enough to respect myself, to give myself what I need and ask for what I need in a moment when I need it, as opposed to people pleasing my way through life to give people what they need. Sorry, it's all assumptions. You assume that's what they need from you, so you do it, and all it does is it just bends you until you break.
Mm,
And actually, can you respect your own, like your own personality, your own whatever it is, psychology, physiology, biology, all the stuff about you, about how you turn up in the world, and being able to kind of respect yourself in moments where you can say, actually, that's not for me. I don't feel like I need to prove myself to you in a moment because I'm not interested in that thing, or I don't want to be doing that thing, or whatever it is, right? Whatever it happens to be. Being able to just be, can you just be yourself? Can you know yourself enough to be yourself and respect yourself and ask for what you want and need
Mm.
and not feel guilty about it? Like there's that other piece, right? There's the sort of hammer that comes down on you afterwards, which is the guilt. It's like, oh, I probably should have went to that event. Like, you know that you shouldn't have gone. You said no. You didn't go. And then you feel guilty afterwards. It's like you've got to also deal with that. Like you've also got to figure out about, well, how and then how can I be happy and not guilty? You can't just beat yourself up all the time about it.
How
So
do
there's
you,
all of that. And then yeah,
I I mean, let's shift. I think that's a
sure.
great segue into that conversation about people pleasing.
Mm.
How do you coach your clients through that feeling? Again, feelings wheel, by the way, great tool. I use that plenty of times with my clients as well.
Well, the wheel of emotions.
Totally underrated tool. And I love that we're both in
So good.
different worlds. You're working
Mm.
with leaders and CEOs and coaches, and I'm working with some, just everyday people, but it's still an invaluable tool is to understand ourselves.
We're both work with people.
We work with people.
We work with people trying to do stuff.
Yes. So how do you help people, or what would you say to people who do struggle with that guilt
Yeah.
that they feel?
The guilt. Oh. Hmm. Well, there's layers here. The first thing is recognizing that I think your people pleasing, the way I talk about people pleasing is your need to be liked, right? So let's put some kind of
Let's yeah,
put
let's
some
give
hooks on the
it
wall, right? So like one of those hooks that we can hang our jacket on is like this idea of need to be liked or people pleasing. So what's happening in there? You're overruling or overriding your own boundaries, your own rules, your own values. You're changing who you are to with the assumption that if you do that, people will like you in some way. So that means you go to the event, you say yes to the thing, you say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll help you out with that," or, you know, I'll I'll take less money or I'll do it for free. Whatever, it's showing itself up in a way that makes you seemingly makes you more acceptable, more liked, more fitting in with the people around you, right? You're doing something like that. But ultimately, what happens is like over time, that just breeds, it's a breeding ground for most people, a breeding ground for some type of resentment, anger, frustration, unhappiness, generally speaking, that they're not getting to live their own life. They're just changing who they are. And I think one of the ways this can show up sometimes is like you're literally a different person with different people. You literally change who you are with different people in your life, like fundamentally. And nobody really then, like, you've got to look at the other side of the perception here. Is I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but here's the sort of extreme version of it. It's like nobody trusts you, nobody respects you. Everybody sees you as a bit of a wet bag, a walkover. You know, there's no respect, no, like, just friendly respect. I'm not talking about respect in a professional sense, just like, and that's a reality where it can get to. So that's kind of like bottom of the spectrum, right? This idea of need to be like people pleasing, how it shows up. What's interesting about my work with in a professional setting is a lot of people don't know how people pleasing is actually manifesting itself in their lives.
Mhm.
So some people might say, I'm not a people pleaser. And then, I start working with them, and like, God, I never realized that it was showing up in my calendar. I didn't realize it was showing up in the way that I didn't realize I was afraid to put my fees up for my services. I didn't realize that. And it's like, that's your people pleasing. You're not doing what you fundamentally know is the right thing to do, and that you need it to live a good life and build a business and build a life and get a paycheck and feed your family and not pay your bills. You're not doing it because you're afraid that you're going to annoy someone, you're going to risk a relationship, you're going to piss people off, Somebody might not like you, is what we're getting at, right? They might not like me if I ask for more money. They might not like me if, right? And so you don't do these things. You dim you I just call it like you're dialing yourself down, right? One of the things I've learned about myself, for example, is that I can be too much for people. Cool, that's for you to figure out. Like you figure that out. Like you take what you need from me and you can forget the rest, but I'm not going to change the way I approach like this, for example. I am like at a 10 energy, like it's all coming out. And it's like, do I just if I can think about being more acceptable to whoever's going to watch this, all of a sudden I'm starting to change who I am. It's like the best
Perfect
thing I
sound,
can
Chris.
be, the best thing I can be is fully me for you. Some people won't like it. Well, whatever. Okay, cool. But I want to be me. Like that's happy. That's happy place. Happiest you could be. So need to be liked is kind of like at the bottom. I see it like a piece of string. Or elastic band. I don't have one here, but this idea that your need to be liked is at the bottom of one end of the elastic band, and your yeah. So if you stretch that lengthways like this, your need to be liked is at the bottom here, people pleasing, and self-respect is at the top. So
Mm.
if you increase your self-respect, your need to be liked should decrease, right? This idea. So they're sort of linked with each other, in other words, as your self-respect and self-assuredness increases, your need to be liked will decrease. So the way that I try, like I'm trying to go through this idea of guilt, that idea of not
Perfect.
feeling guilty is knowing that you were in your within your integrity when you did that thing or said that thing or made that decision. Right? So can I come back to my own core values, my own operating system, the life I want to live, the vision I have for me? The reason I said no to that party is because, and I'm totally good with that. Like that just fits directly in with my core values. And that's who I am. And it's sort of, we're back to sort of, so figure, what I find is that if you're people pleasing, you're essentially working against yourself, right? You're overruling your own respect for yourself, your own values. And so what we want to do, is, in long story short, is get you up on that spectrum from need to be liked to full self-respect. Recognizing that the people around you won't respect you any more than you respect yourself. So if you've got good values, like I think as you mentioned some of this, it's like, is Chris here? Is he Chris there? Is he Chris everywhere? And it's like I love the way he carries himself. You know who you are with him. He's always going to speak the same, do the same. You know what to expect from him. That's somebody that you could potentially respect, right? That has got their shit together, basically, knows who they are in the world. And whether you like that person or not is another matter altogether, but they've figured out who they are and who they want to be, who they want to spend time with, what kind of things they want to do, what interests them, how to be themselves, right? And I think that's that sort of getting to that point where of self-respect. So I'm not saying that guilt won't creep in, but when it does creep in, you can always go back to I know why I made that decision. But similarly, if you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, you can always go back and say, you're totally right. I was outside of my integrity there. That's not how I wanted it to land or be or turn up or whatever. And you can deal with that. Again, self assured enough that by apologizing about the mistakes you make or the things that you do wrong or incorrectly, because you're coming back to your standards, you're coming back to your um you're coming back to your base essentially. So that's how I look at it. It's kind of maybe a long way of looking at it, but I think guilt's kind of like an outcome of something else, right? It's like it's showing up because of something. And is it because you don't know what your values are and how you want to turn up in the world, or is it because you are literally outside of your integrity at the moment and you are being a bit of an asshole and you're not showing up like the person that you want to be in the world, and you need to come back to actually who am I? What does it look like for me to be who I want to be?
Mm.
I think that's where the work is. I think when you read most of these self-help books, that's, I mean, probably one of the most common threads is who are you? What values do you want to live by? What's your filter for decision making? What's your filter for choosing the life you want to live? What's your filter for who you want to hang around? What's your filter for your partner in your life? What's your filter for where you want to live in the world? Like it's a filter. this idea of these core values or whatever it is in the world. So I think that's a big part of it. So that the outcome isn't guilt. The outcome is I made a good decision and I'm happy with it.
Mm,
Other people might not have liked it, but that's life. That's on them to figure out how to deal with that, I find. And again, I'm not don't want to be misinterpreted here as like I don't give a shit about other people and what they think. It's just worrying less about it. I care about other people, but I worry less about what they think about it, about the thing that I'm doing, whatever that might be. It's
mm.
like you can care, but you don't have to worry about it. It's like you're projecting. Michael Gervais, he runs the Finding Mastery podcast. He wrote a book called The First Rule of Mastery, and the subtitle is The First Rule of Mastery is stop worrying about what other people think. And he calls it the fear of other people's opinions, FOPO instead of FOMO. And I thought that's really cool because it's that you live life, you literally make decisions and you change your life based on the fear you have of what other people will think of you when you do it. And I mean, when you just lay it out in such a sort of simple way, you realize that's no way to live a life. That is not a life. A life is not living your life in the fear of what other people think about you or other people's opinions about you. That's you living a life that you think other people will accept, and you don't even know that that's true. It's all you're trying to. You are not a mind reader. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? You can't live life like that. Does that make sense? It's like so. To
Of
me, it's like
course.
fundamentally simple. It's not even about knowledge, right? Because everybody who would disagree with that, like, yeah, Chris, we know all that. Yet, kind of look at what we're doing every day, and you're like, how is, the question is like, where am I changing my decisions, opinions, my filters because I'm afraid of what other people might think? You do have to ask yourself that question. I think it's a good benchmark. You can just maybe write a few things down in your journal and say, well, that's interesting how that's showing up for me right now. I literally did something yesterday where I did it because I wanted to be more accepted. But you could look at that and go, and I'm actually okay with that. That was the right thing to do. That was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do was to go to the hospital and see my granddad. It was the right thing, even though I didn't, whatever. Um, yeah, there's a whole mixed bag in there, but that's how I would look at it. So I always think I've got this like chart that I use in my professional work, which has the need to be liked at the bottom, self-respect at the top, and then another axis that goes right through the middle, and it's client respect. And the whole idea is that if you don't respect yourself, you can't expect other people to respect you. So the respect you get from other people can never be higher than respect you have for yourself. And so I always see like the doorway, the way in here is to get people to work on their self-respect. Now, how do we do that? And I think you might have a different, you might agree, you might not. The way I do it is if you kind of look at it through the lens of confidence, right? Self-respect is like a confidence, right? You believe in yourself. There's self-belief, self-assuredness. In other words, you carry yourself away in the world that that person there looks like they've nothing could shake them, right? They look pretty self-assured, hold themselves in a room, feel pretty comfortable in their own skin, right? Confidence. Now, what have we been talking about this whole time as well, right? How do you become more confident? And when you break it down, this is what I've learned, Julie. You tell me what you think. Is that the way we do that is by giving people skills and tools, right? So you can't just make somebody feel more confident. You have to kind of do something to get to the confidence, right? So what's this? So if you have a lack of confidence in your life or your a lack of like people pleasing showing up in a particular way. What's the skill that I haven't learned? Right, like let's do some examples. How do I set that boundary with that person? How do I say no? How do I have that difficult conversation with my mum about that thing? That's all skills. That's skills. Here's how you do it. You structure it like this. Let's role play it. Let's practice it. Skills, skills, skills. Right? There could be many other tools and skills, both. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is the way that I actually operationalize self respect and confidence and then get ahead of this idea of beating yourself up about it at the end is through the doorway of competency.
Mm.
So if someone's, so I see it all as lack of confidence, right? But I don't try to go in and be, come on, Julie, you can do it. You can do it. Just go see your mum and talk to her. All that sort of stuff. It's like, that's not it. It might be enough actually for some people to just G them up and get them to go do the thing. But oftentimes the increase in confidence is actually an outcome from skill development. So it's like, let me help you set the boundary. Let me help you structure a difficult conversation. Let me help you with this tool that helps you yada yada, whatever. That's how I look at it. So I try to operationalize it into let me teach you a skill. Let me practice that skill with you. You go do that thing. Hey presto, feeling much more confident. Sometimes as well, what I found, Julie, is it's just one skill. Like
Mhm.
one skill away from a breakthrough in your life. So like there's like these atomic, like using James Clear's language here, but like there's these atomic skills almost. Like if you just do this one thing, you'll have a knock-on of confidence across your whole life because you now know that you're capable. I trust myself to hold my space, to have a difficult conversation, and now you could have difficult conversations across your whole life, right? Or one of the ones I use in businesses when people are afraid to charge what they're worth, right? And then they hold their ground, they say that's the price, and guess what? Somebody pays it, and then they go, holy crap. Now I got the best customer I've ever had. They're paying me the right amount of money. I'm getting to do the right work. I'm getting to do my expertise. And all of a sudden it has this like heat map across their business and their life and then they walk home with a spring in their step. They go home, they feel like they're earning the right amount of money. They've got tight, just has this massive knock-on effect to their confidence and how they carry themselves in the world. But it was a skill that they needed at the beginning to allow that to happen. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
So I know you asked about guilt. That's my answer to that question.
Love it. Love it. And I
I
want to
have
double
thought about
down.
this, believe it or not. I have thought about these things in great detail, it seems.
Love it. Love it. I want to double down because you just said so much good stuff. If I could just
Please
like
do. Yeah, I mean,
reiterate
yeah, let's go.
the importance of knowing your values.
Mm,
Because if we don't take the time to figure out what are our values and we decide them, we don't realize it a lot of times, but there are values that have been put on us
right.
subconsciously just from growing up in our families or societies that may be disjuncted or disconnected from what actually feels
Sure.
right. For instance, I might have been, taught this value of like always show up for somebody, right? You never,
Mm,
you always want to be available, right? Like be
right.
selfless. Uh, or being selfish, maybe that being something to reject. So you want to be as generous and selfless as
Right.
possible. Then you're going to act in that way and not understand why you feel the way you do because you think you're acting the way you should be until you
Right.
take the time to figure out, wait, what's my core value here?
Right.
Because the people who taught you to be selfless, maybe they didn't know as well how to set boundaries and care for themselves first. Maybe they even saw that as you're selfish if you're thinking about yourself.
Mm. Yeah, there are hand-me-downs.
Hand me down.
Yeah, and they've been handed down from somebody that never did the work probably as well. I mean, you can almost I'm not trying to judge other people, but ultimately they probably didn't figure that out for themselves either. So it's kind of hand me down, hand me down, hand me down. Oh, there's so much agency in this. Like, I'm getting quite excited talking about this because you can just break the mold by sitting down and doing. Honestly, if you Googled personal value exercise, you would find millions of hits probably. Pick one and do it. Like, this is one of the things I think about a lot in my work, Jolie. I think a lot of people, I don't know that they expect it, but there's a sort of expectation that I'm going to give you the tool that you need to use. I'm like, I don't give a shit what tool you use. As long as you do the exercise, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to give you the trademark Chris Marr exercise tool to use. What you need to do is find the one that you like and do it. Like, I don't care which one it is. In this case, one of those cases is like, this has been done to death. Like, it's stripped apart and put back together again. Do a values exercise. Figure out who you are. Like, if you can do that, that could untether you from the sort of generational expectations that have been put on you from your parents or grandparents or wherever, or whoever. It doesn't even have to be your parents. It could be an institution, for example, that's done it to you as well. A religious institution. It could be a school, for example, as well. Um, so yeah, I think it's good, but even then, it's like so. I think there's something really interesting about figuring out who you even are inside of that organizational value system, for example. You might still want to be a part of it, but where's my agency in it, right? I think that can come from these exercises. That's why I think they're so important to do.
So
And it's funny
important.
you're mentioning this because I'm reflecting on this right now, and that I actually haven't done this exercise for quite some time. But I know exactly where to look. I know exactly which journal it's in, and I'm going to go out and get it after this call because I want to go back and look at it.
Yeah. They form the compass, right, for our
Right,
lives.
compass is great.
So
Right.
adding on to the guilt side of things, what I find a lot is that that guilt is something that's, again, been a hand-me-down. It's been passed down that you should feel guilty if you say no, that you don't want to go to that party when they want you to go to the party. You should feel guilty. It's
Right.
almost like that's a feeling and a
Yeah, it's a
mechanism
bad
that's
thing,
been ingrained. Yeah.
like a
So
punishment.
exactly. So
Right.
it's going to take some work to unpeel and realize I might be feeling guilt when I finally am not people pleasing anymore. And that guilt does not necessarily mean that something's wrong. It
Right.
just means that I'm so accustomed to giving in to what everyone else wants that it's
Mm-hmm.
so unnatural. And my body is just, it doesn't know how to regulate these new feelings of agency. And but if you know
Yeah.
that ahead of time, that, hey, guilt might come up, and that as long as you're acting,
Yes.
you got your value sheet, you acted within those values, then you
Yep.
can sit with that guilt and let it pass through you and regulate through it. And then it doesn't affect you as much over time.
Right. It's a work. You got to work it.
It's the
But
work.
you're highlighting something really important, which I think is good to shine a light on, which is the tool and the skill. It's still, we're still talking about exactly the same thing, which is like how to work yourself out of feeling guilty is to have a tool and the skills, right? It's like you got to work, you got to know which tool and which skill to deploy in that particular area, for example, right? I had this flash of a story where I had an ex-girlfriend, obviously an ex-girlfriend since I'm married now. It's the way back, I don't even know, this was like 20 years ago, maybe longer. And she was going on holiday with her parents and her family. And at the very last minute, I said, I don't want to go actually. And honestly, even looking back, I just couldn't think of anything worse, honestly. It was like so painful for me. But so a couple of things were going on for me. Why did I leave? It pissed everyone off that I did it last minute. But I knew the whole time I didn't want to go, right? So I was people pleasing all the way to the end. And because I people pleased for so long, I actually pissed everybody off. If I just told them at the beginning, there's just no way I'm going, like, I'm not going. There's just not, it's not happening. It would have probably been, maybe it still wouldn't have been great, but at least it wouldn't have left it to the last minute. See how people pleasing can kind of have this, like, this gray area, right? It's like it's showing up in different ways where actually the right thing to do would have been to just accept who I am, know that I actually definitely don't want to go, be absolutely cool about making a fucking decision for myself for once, and I should just say, you guys have a great time. I know you will. I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to do extra. I'm going to, whatever. I'm just not going. And I'll see you when you get back. Cool. It's just like you know what a lot of people say as well. Like it's a really good example is when you're sitting around the dinner table at home, right? Let's say you're on a diet, you're on some type of diet regimen, right? You're eating a very specific food for a specific reason, but you don't feel like you can ask for a different meal at the table because everybody else is eating the same meal.
Mm.
But when you go to a restaurant, everybody orders a different meal. Like, what's the big deal? Do you see? It's like we have these sort of like unwritten expectations and rules around things that stop people. Like this is one of the things I teach Luna. She's 6 years old. She's a strong, independent woman already. But I say to her all the times, like, Luna, what I need you to do right now is ask me for exactly what you want. What is it that you want right now in this moment? What do you need from me? Like, I don't care how you word it, how you say it. Just lift your chin up. Tell me, what do you need right now? Right? Because I want her to know that you have to be able to ask for what you, it doesn't mean you'll get it all the time, of course, but you need to be able to ask the world for what you want, you know? Um, and all that to say, these it's great looking back because you can see exactly where all those people pleasing tendencies were showing up and how because I wasn't, and this is sort of an inverse relationship with it, right, by the way, because if I wasn't a people pleaser, it wouldn't have been as bad, which is quite funny to look at, right? Because in a lot of cases I've made things worse through people pleasing, actually just annoyed people. Whereas actually, if I was more self assured, more self confident, and more set on what I want and what I don't want, and what's good and what's not good, then people would have known exactly who I am and what like it would just make things a lot easier, right? Instead, what we do is we sort of dial it down, we sweep it under the carpet, we stay silent, we shrink down, we don't say the thing, and then we fucking blow up, and
Yeah.
we're like, uh, that's enough, it's enough, it's enough. I don't want that, I don't want this. And it's like everyone's like, what the fuck happened? He's a really nice guy, and all of a sudden he's angry, and you're like, I am been resentful for 10 years. You know, it's like, I can't stand this relationship. And it's like, God, why didn't you say something? It's like, exactly. Why didn't you tell me sooner? And it's like, because I'm a people pleaser. And that has ruined both my life and yours as well.
I think there's also another person in this. Like you're describing the person who knows what they feel, knows what they want. It's clear, and then they do something else. So it's very clear that there's a disconnect between what they want and what they feel,
Sure.
what they actually end up saying or doing or going along with.
Mm,
What I find, and I'm curious if you go through this with your clients as well, I find that a lot of people are so accustomed to people pleasing being their norm that they don't even have enough internal space to
mm,
know what they really want and what they
right.
so they don't actually realize that they are people pleasing in the moment because it's just been so habitual and so just
Right.
obligatory that what do you mean? That's just what I do. It doesn't matter.
Agreed.
So
They don't have
what
the language for it. They don't see it. Right.
would you say to those people who don't even have
Yeah.
a good, clear idea that they are people pleasing, maybe until
Sure.
you blow up later on?
I do feel like we've covered this it's sort of like in a long form way, which is everything we've said is the stuff you need to do. So if you've got a sense that maybe this is like you've some of the stuff that we've talked about, for example, today is like throwing up some strong feelings for you, there's a good chance that you need to do some of the things that we've talked about, everything we've talked about today, to help you understand what it is and why it's showing up for you. Um, this is a hard one, I think, because you can't make someone see something that they can't see. So this is the question that threw up for me, which is how do we make it more obvious? Right? How do we make the problem obvious? And I think that's actually a job of the professional. Like, so I see myself as a professional. I work in professional services to help people in professional services figure this stuff out for themselves so they can speak up in meetings, so they can ask their boss for a raise, so they can do their best work, feel confident at work, go home, feel fulfilled, like, and feel confident and self-assured in everything that they do, right? That's what I do. Um, but it's very difficult for somebody to know what's wrong if they don't know what people pleasing is or how it's manifesting itself, for example, in this case. Or so what I have to do as a professional is like, how do I help people? How do I help make the problem more obvious? Right? I think that's I feel like that's my responsibility. If I want to have the impact on the world that I want to have on through my work, through the people I want to work with, to have more confident, self-assured people who can ask for what they want, I have to be able to help them see why that's not true for them. right? So one way that I do that is I have an assessment that they can do, right? It's totally free assessment. You go through it and it shines a light on the areas that where people pleasing is showing up for you in your work, right? It's a very simple thing. But but to say that out loud, it's like there's a ton of assessments online that'll help you with this sort of stuff. I'm not saying they're all accurate, I'm not saying they're all great, but I think they all have a use case in certain circumstances. The right assessment at the right time will throw up perhaps an area that needs your attention. And that's okay. It might not be an assessment you'll go back to time and time again. Point being, it's a so is there enough self-awareness that maybe there's something for me to work on and that you have the motivation or the drive to go figure out what it is.
Mm.
And that could be something that might make the problem more obvious to you so you can put a name on it, a feeling on it, and then get a tool and a skill to work on it. Like there is a process there. And once you maybe crack that, that self-awareness maybe opens up a bit more to you. You have like so you I think number one is you just generally have to be open to learning about stuff. It's growth mindset stuff that we talked about before. My dad took me to my first personal development course when I was 14 years old. Like there's no question that that's a seed that got planted with me. So like the whole idea of like the doorway being if I've got a problem, I can figure it out. If I've got a problem, I can read a book and learn about it. I've got a problem or a challenge, I can do a course and learn about it and figure it out. That's absolutely ingrained in me. So if I was to say like don't take that for granted, in other words, there's people that maybe don't think that way. I think what I've just outlined there, those steps are, I think what is is part of that journey towards realizing that you can help yourself and you
Mm.
can work on yourself. You just have to take the first step, which is honestly just finding a place to start that work on yourself and knowing that you've got the autonomy and the agency to do that work. Nobody needs to give you permission to do it. You can just step into it and get started.
Are there any books or resources that you would really recommend for someone who's maybe just starting in this
Mm.
journey of self-awareness and agency and
Oh boy. Well, yes, I have 100% books. Yes. It would depend a little on if it was a professional setting or less of a professional setting.
let's go with personal.
Um, yeah, if
Well,
it's
let's do
personal,
both.
well, somebody that crosses both is Brené Brown. She crosses both. Like, so forget about Dare to Lead. That is a book for leaders. But if you did Gifts of Imperfection, you did Daring Greatly, um, Rising Strong. Those are books I think are really well research led books with actual practical tools and skills that feel very grounded in sensibility. That for someone like me who thinks more logically and systematic, like in a more logic system based thing, I think that those are good books for that. And what I mean is, it's not kind of like it's not woo woo airy fairy kind of like, and there's place for that, right? I'll share a book in a second about that, but Brené Brown's books are very tool skill driven, and I think if you're wanting to look for, if we're looking at all the stuff that we've talked about today, that could be a real clear path to that. So that's where that would be my top recommendation, if I'm honest, is like those books are just so solid, right? So well researched. But then like as you kind of spread out, because Brené Brown's kind of like got quite a broad spectrum of vulnerability. Was it is her expertise is mostly vulnerability, but the gifts of imperfection is essentially about people pleasing, how you can show up in the world as your imperfect self and not feel bad about that and not feel guilty about it or not have to justify it to other people. So I would start there, and then like the one thing I do with books actually is you go to the back of the book and look at the references and then pick the next book, right? So it's kind of like a red thread through the books. So I look at like what books were they reading at the time or what books did they reference in that book, and then I go get that book and I read that and I will do exactly the same thing and just follow that path through and through. The good thing about that is, or what I like about it is you might get recommended a book here. Let's say you pick up The Gifts of Imperfection, but nobody needs to recommend a book to you ever again because you just go through that path and you're on your own journey of discovery at that point. You just need a way, and it's like going into a library. You just need which book should I pick up first, and then I can follow that book through to the next book and so on and so forth. I like recommendations from people, but I come again back to agency. I don't know how many times we've mentioned that today. There's something about me knowing that I'm getting the right book for me right now. Like if you recommended me a book, surely I would absolutely pick it up. Um, but I'm not sure if I would read it right now. It might sit on my shelf for a while because I'm maybe on my own path. So what book strikes me right now? It's funny. I'm just telling you what's showing up for me is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Ooh,
Now, it
it's a good one.
is a good one.
It's a deep one.
You got to be prepped for that one. Well, you don't have to be prepped, but you do have to be prepared that maybe you won't get it the first time you read it. You might give that book, I think you could easily give that book a 2 out of 5 on your first read. But then if you read it again, I am almost certain that you'll be like, oh, now I get it. I totally get it. It's like, this is amazing. Um, oh, it's so good. So The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer would be the other book that I would recommend. That's just like literally just showing up for me. I've thought about it throughout this conversation. For some reason, it's just there. Um, yeah, I think those are the my main recommendations right now, I would say.
I would double down. I think those are both great. Uh, if
What would
anyone
you
is
recommend?
interested in Brene Brown, she has a wonderful series on Netflix. Not a
Right.
series, but
It's a lecture.
a lecture. And it's quite
Right.
funny. I often refer to it as a comedy talk.
Right,
Is
it's like a stand-up, like special. Yeah.
it's quite funny and it's great about courage, vulnerability,
Right.
emotions. She also has a great
That's
book about emotions, Atlas
the
of the
Atlas of the Heart. Yeah, I was just about to say that. It's a great sort of like more in-depth version of the Wheel of Emotions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yes.
vocabulary around emotions. I think I just want to just like lock that in on this episode. It's like one of the best things you could do is widen your vocabulary around emotions. Like just simple things like what's the difference between envy and jealousy? Do you even know how to define those things and what they mean and how they show up differently? Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm not going to lecture anybody on the differences, but it's like you've got to ask yourself these questions. Are you using the right word to describe the right set of feelings around the right circumstance?
Yes.
Right?
And I I totally agree. When you see the definition, it can actually help you understand what you're feeling better. Uh,
That's what
for
you got to
instance,
put words to it. Right.
yeah, the word frustrated, right? It means there's something that's in the way between you and a goal that's frustrating and hindering your progress.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have someone saying, "Oh, I'm frustrated," I say, "Okay, what is the goal that you had, and what is the hindrance
Mm-hmm.
that's in your way?" And then they get more clarity of like, "No, I'm just frustrated at him being him." Well, what is it that him acting in this way is preventing you from achieving? And then we can kind
Right.
of unpack it and unpeel a little deeper.
Exactly. It's how understanding what the feeling means, why it shows up, and then being able to then, for you as a counselor, a facilitator, is being able to know what question to ask that highlights, that shines a light on the part that matters the most.
Exactly.
So like a throwaway question there would be someone says they're frustrated, and you say, well, what do you mean by that? Now, to ask a question like that, you have to assume they know what it means, why it's showing up, and why they feel that way. But if you say, oh, so what is it you're trying to achieve? You're asking the question that actually gets them to speak it, define it out for themselves, which I love. I think that's perfect.
No,
But you wouldn't know to ask that question if you didn't know what frustration actually is.
exactly.
And that's what we're saying here, right? It's like, do that work, figure out what these, the Atlas of the Heart, fantastic. It's like
Yeah.
it's a bit of a textbook, but it's great for that.
Yeah, it's a great like resource book.
Yeah,
A couple other resources that I'll mention is
sure.
there's an app, almost like the feelings wheel, but in an app version that's a little more interactive called How We Feel. How We Feel. It's a nonprofit that runs it, and it's actually a great feelings check-in uh, app that basically lets you choose between four quadrants: high energy, low energy, pleasant or not pleasant. And then it,
Hmm.
it kind of puts in quadrants all these different feelings, gives you the definitions, gives you some ways to track it over time. So that's a good way to develop self-awareness in of itself that I recommend to a lot of clients,
How we feel or how I feel.
how we feel. It's on Android and on the App Store.
I'll have to check that. I think I could find that useful.
Yeah, a lot of my clients use that. Another book that I've found super helpful is called Radical Acceptance by Tara
Oh
Brach.
yeah. Yeah.
And what that does, it might, you might read it and seem like, wait, how is this helping with, people pleasing and stuff like that? But really, what it's doing is trying to increase the volume, so to speak, of your self-awareness. Because if you have the self-awareness and the self-respect higher, then it becomes easier to notice uh, what's real for you, right? What's really there without judging it. And then you
Right.
can notice the difference maybe of when you're people pleasing and not. So, there's a couple different levers, right? A couple different exercises we can do to
Hmm.
get at the same aim, right? It's almost like we were talking a little bit about the gym, right? Like, does it matter what exercise you do to build your tricep? If, there's plenty, it doesn't matter. You're just trying to build your tricep. Doesn't matter if you want the end result.
Right. Unless you're like that 1%, Mr. or Mrs. Olympia, like, okay, maybe it matters then, but for the most part, get the general gist of it, right? It's
Yes.
interesting that we've mentioned these things because I think this is my sort of brains kicking in here, which is that as you're listening through this and I'm even thinking about myself, it's like if you break it down, I think it's quite cool to operationalize the repair, the fix, the the bettering of it all, right? So, for example, just pick up a few books, right? So they've got books. Books are you can get them for free from your library, or you can pay $20 and get a book, right? It's reasonably accessible to some of the highest paid experts in the world on these particular topics, right?
And
So you can pick up the
audiobooks.
book. Right, exactly. So you can pick up the book for little to no cost. If you need to do it for free, get it from your local library or like a charity shop or get it from a friend, right? So you've got books hugely accessible, right? Inside those books, you will get the tools. The tools are there. Oftentimes, these books are free to download online, the sheets, the worksheets. You could do the work for free. Journaling. Have you got a pen and paper? Cool. Almost free. 20 cents from your local store, right? You can journal. You can write about yourself. You can unpack your own shadow self in there, whatever you want to call it, right? So we've got books, we've got tools, we've got the journaling, and then we've got skill practice. And because we're in 2025, all the YouTube videos, the series on, like, you could have like, if you want to spend some money, you can go get a master class. You can go and watch, like Esther Perel do her thing. There's the TV shows now all about therapies and just like what I'm trying to say is don't don't let yourself get in the way of thinking that you need to have lots of money to get started on this. See that everything's available to you if you want to do the thing is if you want to do it and you know there's something for you to work on, that it's all very much right there ready to be picked up by you at any time, just as soon as you're ready. And everything we're talking about there is like if you look at it through the window of tools and skills. Where are the tools? What skills do I need to learn? How do I put them into practice? This will help me. Almost guaranteed to help you. In fact, guaranteed to help you. I would say guaranteed to help you if you do do that basic foundational work, I would say. I don't know if you'd add something, but I just wanted to broadly pick out the almost like I don't know why my brain does that, but like what's the steps I need to take type of
Totally.
situation.
Totally. And I think you're right. It can be so overwhelming because there's so many. And I love what you said about books is you really just need a first one. You just need a first step. And then in that book, they're going to reference another researcher or somebody else. Maybe you
Right.
look at that talk that the author does on YouTube. It's going to recommend other ones,
I would
uh,
100% recommend that. Yep.
blogs, all these different things.
It's all
There's
there.
I'm a big fan of community tools and
Mhm.
community resources. So whether it's a
Right.
book club, whether it's
Love that.
a group, I mean, me myself, I'm a big fan of like 12-step groups and community
Hmm.
coming together on a shared common cause. So there are
Yeah.
plenty of groups on, kind of aside from people pleasing, could be codependency, where you need
Right.
to be happy in order for you to be happy. There are plenty of groups where people are just like you trying to learn
Right.
and get better, that you don't have to do this alone.
Oh, not only
And
do you not have to do it alone, maybe you need to hear it from me, maybe you don't, whatever. You, other people have the same problems as you. You're not the only one going through this. So it's not that you don't have to do it on your own. Recognize that you are just 100% not the only person going through this. There's an ego in this somewhere, I think. I don't feel like I've unpacked this as much as I should, but there's a bad part of our ego that gets in our way from seeking help, telling us that we're different. Like, and I mean that, and I don't mean that in a way of what we've already talked about. You are different, and it's great that you're different. Like your difference is something that you should bring to the world. But what I mean is like that your problems are different, that you're special in some way, and that actually stops you from working on yourself. It's like try and see that showing up for you. That's a lie. I That's how I would see it.
mm, yeah, I would say the problems that you have might look different on the surface from
Right.
problems I have or problems you have, where it's like, I don't have your aunt or your uncle who's this particular person and grinds your wheels in this particular
Right.
way. No, I don't have your uncle. No one's going to have the exact same players. But if we peel underneath it, let's look at it, and those feelings are going to be
Yeah.
commonalities of, oh, I have a hard time with a domineering authority figure in my family. How do I deal with
Right.
that? And you are not the only person with that. So we just have to be willing to get curious and dive just a little
Yeah.
bit deeper to the feelings. And we can see that there's so many people who can relate and who have found a solution, a way out of it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just
That can
mean,
be inspiring.
yes, yes. And I'm sure you face a lot of people, Chris, who they automatically go from black to white, where they're saying, well, if I'm not
Mm,
people pleasing, I'm gonna be a jerk. And I don't want to be
right.
a jerk. And they black and white this
Everything.
this cognitive dissonance and miss
Hmm.
that there's a place in the middle for that.
Right. It's almost always. I find like that. I find that that's almost one of my main jobs with my clients is going, oh yeah, I see, and I'm like, this is ones and zeros. You're like, it's either this or that, and I am the person that says, well, what about this? Like, what about this bit in the middle here that you've completely just missed? You know, I feel like I do a lot of that in my life. It's like I love the gray bit in the middle. It's
Yeah.
almost always where it is. Yeah, totally agree with you on that. It's like you need sometimes I would say like final thought on like help is, or maybe not the final thought, but certainly is that almost I'd say always as well, people will benefit from speaking to somebody else, a professional preferably, somebody that you pay money to because they'll be more objective and do their job properly for the most part, right? That money needs to there's something about paying a professional to help you means that you can say everything that needs to be said without any judgment, and the person will have unconditional positive regard for you and will have difficult conversations with you and probe in difficult areas that other people won't. And so sometimes I think it's good to, if you can afford to and you can find the access to it, I'd say like the one layer above all the stuff that we've already talked about is getting that professional help as well, whether that's a coach or a counselor or a therapist or all three, whatever. I think can be really helpful because they are not you. They are not you. And I think it can be helpful even just for a short period of time.
Hmm. I love that you highlighted in this conversation how even coaches need coaches and
Yeah.
coaches need therapists. Uh, I tell this
Yeah.
analogy, this analogy often that people think, oh, I maybe they work on this with other people all the time, so I should be able to work on it myself. And I think of it as if you were the world's most renowned heart surgeon, that everyone comes to you for any difficult case. The thing is, if you yourself get to a point where you have a heart attack, you need heart surgery, you're not going to be able to operate on yourself.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter how good you are, we need somebody else. And it's not
It's not
any downfall. It's just,
totally. It's hilarious because not only it's funny because the heart surgeon could operate on themselves, but they would do a terrible job, right? So it's not that they can't, it's that they shouldn't,
right.
right? It's like you should not, and it's like you needed somebody else, exactly, right? So it's I think about it like, and I love that analogy. Is one of the things I learned because I started but didn't finish a master's in counselling at Abertay University here in Dundee. And it was a great course. I just realized that I'm not supposed to be. I'm a coach. I have a lot of counseling ability in the work that I do. You could probably get a sense of that. But the the knowledge and what I picked up from there, one of the things that I picked up from there, long story short, was that if you're a registered counselor, you absolutely, in order to be a registered counselor and to actually accept money from people as a counselor, you need to have a supervisor. You have to go once a month to your supervisor. You have to clock up your supervisory hours. You have to go and talk about your cases and what's happening, and there's supervisory, which is to me is like makes so much sense. But in the world of coaching, and even in the world of counseling, it's very unregulated. I'm sure it's the same in the States. There are regulations. You can get certifications in these things, but it's massively unregulated, right? Anybody can do a certification, and I could do a certification in coaching if I wanted to. Um, Point being is that the supervisory piece is massively missing. And so if you're a counselor and you don't have your own counselor, then I would say that you're outside of your integrity. And if you're a coach and you don't have your own coach, I would say you're outside of your integrity. And so I do believe that. I mean, there's stronger words for it than this, but I think you're operating outside of your professional integrity if you don't also have a coach or a counselor or whatever it is, the profession that you're in.
Hmm. I would even add that if you're looking for a coach or you're looking for a therapist, I think that's a totally fair question to ask
Mm.
is, are they working with a coach now?
So who's your coach? Yeah. That's what
Yeah,
you say, right? It's like,
I-
so who's your coach or who's your counselor or whatever? Yeah,
right. Yeah. What's that look like? How long have you worked with them? I think
yeah,
people feel like, oh no, that's again like the people pleasing, right? Like, oh no, I don't want to
totally.
cry and it's not my business. It's absolutely your business. That's
So critical.
are there any other
100% agree.
questions maybe for someone who is considering whether it's a coach or a counselor, a therapist? You know, I know therapy is a little outside of both of our realm, right? We can't
Mm,
specifically talk to it, but any other specific questions that you would recommend that somebody ask to make sure that they can actually find someone that's, you know, legit, who's going to be a good fit for them, and like you said, hold them in positive regard, regardless.
right. So what I would, this is going to be totally contradictory, and maybe if somebody's listening to this, it might annoy them, but mm, I would say there's a lot of counselors out there. There's a lot of therapists, a lot of people that can help you, right? Your job is to find the right one. So I would try on a lot of hats. That's what I would do. So for example, yes, ask the questions, right? So, like, get a good sense. Have you worked with people with this particular challenge before? Like, how does it work? Tell me what the path looks like. Feel confident about the decisions you're making, but also be willing to drop $50 on it and go, that wasn't for me. And don't stick at it just because you think it might work out. Just like go, that's cool. Hey, I've done my 3 sessions with you. I'm going to go and I'm going to try something else. And then if I might come back realizing this is actually what I want because I've done something else. Do a bit of like dipping your toes in. I give you like a soft example of this, which is my mum with her physio and her PT. Mum broke both her shoulders in a skiing accident a few years ago. and she was like hanging on to her PT. She's like, "Oh, he's good. I don't want to stop paying him money." And I was like, "Mum, you're going to outgrow your PT. Like, it's going to happen. You just go, it's been great, and then you go get your next PT that's going to help you more specifically because you now you've got the general skills now. Now you need more specifics. You go to get the specialist now, or then the next specialist, and it's like you're going to meet people that suck at they're literally shit at their job, and it's like you're going to have to go. That's not for me. And you wasted a few pounds, a few bucks, whatever. But like there's this, I think I'm going the opposite way here, which is try stuff, don't get locked in too early, find the person that really you can really benefit from right now, and don't feel bad about switching help. Uh, it might go against a few rules and things like people say you need to stay for 3 sessions or 6 sessions or whatever, fine. But ultimately, if it's not working out, the best decision you can make is like very quickly get out of that and go into something else and try different things and seek to find the right help for you. But it is all about trying it, asking the right questions, feeling confident that you're making a good choice. Not only have they worked with someone with the same challenge as you before, but could they um are they able to provide you with maybe not evidence as such, but at least share case examples with you, obviously removing names and details and things like that. Um, you've got to trust these people. You're going to be sharing your innermost, darkest thoughts potentially with them as well. So, um,
Mm.
I think the challenge is you've got to know when this is I've got a few stories popping up in my head here. There was a young girl who got a therapist and she was just judged. Like, if you don't know what therapy is and it's your first experience of therapy, the first experience will be what you think therapy is,
Mm.
for example, right? So she goes in and she's like, the girl's clearly anxious and she's struggling with life in general and all the rest of it. And the therapist is just like judging her. Well, maybe dress better, don't put so much makeup on, don't go out on Friday nights and drink and all that sort of stuff. No, zero unconditional positive regard, like what you'd expect. But when you're young and it's your first experience, you're probably not going to know. You're not going to know. You're like, is this what this is? I feel bullied and I feel bad about myself. Maybe that's how I'm supposed to feel. What I mean, and this is what we're up against is saying all this and knowing that there's therapists out there that suck at their job and definitely shouldn't be counseling you or people like you. Maybe they're more suitable for certain types of people with certain challenges and certain circumstances. And it's like, do a bit of research, get onto YouTube. What is therapy? What should it look like? What should it feel like? There's great YouTube videos with actual role play therapy situations in them. You can watch them and they unpack what went well, what didn't go so well, all that sort of stuff. You can do a lot of research now. You don't have to go in blind. And you can get yourself schooled up properly on what coaching is supposed to look and feel like, what therapy is supposed to look and feel like, what counseling is supposed to look and feel like, what psychotherapy is supposed to look and feel like. These are all different types of help that all have different nuances, and there's so many different schools of thought as well that I think it's worth getting yourself. At least we're back to words and meanings, aren't we? To figure out what type of help you might actually need in the world. And yeah, it was a sort of long answer, but I think you do. What I'm saying is be careful, but also step into your agency around it as well. You don't have to go if it feels like the wrong thing, like just stop paying them and go away and go somewhere else, I
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying that. Something's telling me that that's probably happening more than we know, and or that people realize that they're not in the right relationship for the help they need.
It shouldn't feel like there's a judgment, regardless of what you say. Shouldn't feel judged. Uh, you should feel like you can trust this person to open up. Now, I know some people already have some trust issues that they're like, what do you mean? I don't trust anybody. What do you mean?
Hmm.
So, what I typically ask is, did anything happen during those first sessions or conversations that specifically made you feel like you can't trust them? Maybe they reacted in a certain way. Maybe they, said something in a certain way. So if you can't
Hmm.
pinpoint something that they did that made you feel like you can't trust them, then okay, you're on the right track.
Sure. It's
And
interesting that you're mentioning this because what I'm thinking about right now is we're putting this on the person seeking help, right? But actually, what should be happening here is the professional should be asking good questions of the person seeking help to make sure it's a good fit as well, right? So, as much as we want to empower the seeking, we want to empower the professional as well. I would argue that it's on the professional to seek fit and build trust quickly with the right skills over expecting the seeker, because they're obviously in an emotional turmoil, that they're not perhaps rationally able to understand what help looks. I think I'm just going through my head, through the little wormholes in my head here, and thinking, actually, what would it look like when the professional says, "Have you ever had counseling before, and how did that go? And was there times when you felt like you really didn't trust the person, and how did that feel?" Yada yada yada. Right.
yes,
So actually, probably on a bit of both. I would say we want to empower people, but at the same time, a good professional is going to make sure that you feel like trust is building into the relationship, probably very quickly from the beginning.
yes. I agree that this would be the ideal, and this would
Right.
be something that you and I both do, right? Is
Right. Very,
understanding from the get-go
very
that
deliberately.
yeah, that everyone's not a good fit. And unfortunately, I don't think many, whether it's therapists or coaches, they may not have those communication skills to do that.
True.
So that's where I do try to arm the seeker to
Yes.
ask
Be
some of
smart.
those questions, even to ask, uh, like, who would not be a good fit to work with you? And if
Mhm.
that person answers defensively and like, what do you mean? I'm good with everybody. That could be a good sign that maybe not. Because
Right.
listen, Chris, if I ask you or if you were to ask me who's not a good fit to work with me, I can tell you, right? Like there are some things just given my style, given my personality, I'm not going to be the best fit for everyone. You're not going to be the best fit for somebody. If somebody
Mhm.
has a thing with accents, right? If somebody has a
Yep.
thing with people with tattoos, right? That they just don't take them
Right. Yeah. They
seriously.
don't want to work with hot-looking guys. Is what they really don't want.
Like if they just prefer somebody that's buttoned up with a suit and tie,
Right. Totally.
and that's
This is
fine.
right.
Totally fine. Again, it's about accepting you are who you are, and it's not going to be a good fit for everyone. And that
Yeah.
is okay. I'm sure you could refer them to somebody else, and it would be great.
Right. And also, like, you're back to professional integrity. It's like actually, this I do this. I do this a lot. I probably do myself out of business, easy business sometimes. Is by the end of the time of speaking to me in a discovery, like a discovery type situation, this is a good fit, basically. They leave the call with way more clarity about what they actually need, and it isn't me, which is awesome.
That's a
I send
win.
them away with a gift, which is that they can go away now and find like they're armed, ready to do what they actually need to do. Sometimes it's actually, we'd love to work with you, but actually, after having this conversation with you, I can see that this is the wrong thing. Like, this is not what we should be doing, and we need to go do something else entirely. And it's like, that's a gift. I feel like that's a gift for people.
Absolutely. I've had plenty of people come to me for coaching that after a conversation, we realize that actually therapy probably is a better fit given the specifics of what they're dealing with. And
Right.
that's beautiful that then I can follow up with them in a couple months and say, how's it going? And they're like so ecstatic. And again, it comes back to your values, right? If my value is just about making money and
Right.
being well known for my name or whatever, versus if I'm really just trying to help people, then I'm gonna love it if they're getting help even from somebody else.
Yeah, it's like a North Star, though, right? It's like, what impact are you trying to make on the world? Like, what's my role in that? You know, I think that's important to recognize. Like, what is that for you? That
Mm.
should guide you through these, what's the right thing to do. Yeah, 100%.
Chris, as we wind up here, I feel like we'll
Hmm.
definitely have to do a part two because I have a bunch of things that
Yeah,
I
I don't know even know if you got to the actual questions that you wanted to ask or not.
but I think that's
Just
what makes it a great
the
conversation.
conversation carried itself.
Yeah. Are there well, first off, I'll just reiterate that Chris, you have a book. It's called Become an Authoritative Coach.
Oh, I've got a copy right there. Look at that.
I do have a copy and it's nice texture too. You have an Instagram. What's your handle,
The
Chris?
authoritative coach,
Authoritative Coach.
right?
Uh,
That's the best place to find me. That's where I live, basically. That's where everything is.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people come to Chris when they are coaches themselves or leaders of organizations. They come to Chris for help. But I think what we're seeing as a result of this conversation is the coaching and the expertise that you have to offer is applicable to anyone. It's people.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
people come to me when they want to, they want to tr really unpack, either prepare for and or learn from high stakes situations of sorts. That could be anything from a sales and selling, leadership one-on-ones, team meetings, visioning, all that sort of stuff, right down to your individual consultant coach, someone that works in a professional setting with individuals as well. And there's a whole range of stuff in there as well. Like I would say I'm a generalist rather than a specialist, with a specialism in communication specifically. But generally speaking, I've got like this whole broad range of skills. It's actually, yeah, I can help people with a lot of things, it seems, which is a really cool position to be in, but difficult to market. Difficult to, oh, I can help you with anything. It's like, okay, what exactly? So, anyway, I think it's good to be very grateful to be in a position where I feel healthy and well positioned to help people to get what they want in the world. I get texts from my clients sometimes just like, it's so good to be working with you, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I just want you to get what you want. I just want you to win and get whatever it is that you're striving for. So I'm here for that. Like, it's like this, it's a similar sort of unconditional positive regard. And my way is like, I'm here for you to win. Like, whatever's getting in your way, I'm here to help you get through it so you can get on and build what it is that you want to build or get what you want to get. And even figuring out what you want is hard for people. Some people don't want anything, and that's actually works against them. It's like, let's figure out what you want to get out of all of this. So yeah, my work's quite broad, um, but I love it. It's great helping people. That's what it's all about.
yeah. So you mentioned some assessments, things like that. I'll drop the
Yep,
links to those in the description to this
awesome. That'd be great.
conversation. So
Yeah.
they know where to find you. They can find your book. They can find your assessment, hear more from you, what's going on, what's coming out. Um,
Hmm.
and as we wrap up here, Chris, is there anything that you would want to leave the listeners with? Any take home message or anything we didn't get to discuss that's really on your mind that you really want to leave people with?
Yeah, I think we did a good job, I think, of covering a lot of ground there. Um, I think I might just emphasize one point that I feel like is such an upstream idea. Like in other words, if you do this, it sort of like helps everything else. Is just back to this idea of recognizing that when you feel tension or anxiety or frustration or any sort of rising feeling that's sort of holding you back from doing what you need to do, whatever that is, that what you need is a skill. Like, realize as an adult that you just need to go learn, figure out what it is that you need to learn so you can do that thing. And I think if you look at everything through the lens of skill development, adding skills into your toolbox, that then helps you navigate the world far, far better and gives you the confidence that you need. I feel like it's such a, like when I say upstream, I mean that it's like if you do that, it helps everything else that comes thereafter. I feel like it's a really clear doorway um to living a better life and being a happier person, which I think to me has been the theme here is like recognizing that you could be happier and to work on that somehow, whatever that looks like. And it could be through your work, it could be through your personal life, but to live a happier, better life where you feel like you're a good person for the most part.
If there were just two or three skills that
Mm-hmm.
you could have everybody learn, or everyone
Oh,
could magically know, that would maybe solve like the 80% with just two or three skills for
oh
them,
yeah, okay,
what would
right. Well, I think we mentioned one, which is kind of like a broad skill, which is just this growth mindset idea, which is kind of a set of, it's more like a mental model than a skill. But even just saying that out loud right now, like if you can learn about mental models, I think in general that helps. So there's a learning piece there about how we work and how we're locked into frames of things. We've talked about this as black and white idea, but actually, what if there was a different frame that held you see things differently? Mental models are fascinating. Shane Parrish is a great person to read about this. He sort of unpacks all these different mental models to get us to see things differently. And I think if you can, the skill of changing your perspective, I think is huge. This is like a big deal.
yeah.
So I would say that plus the skill of having difficult conversations, realizing that they're actually not that difficult when you know what to do and how to navigate them. The underlying skill of not taking it personally or making it about yourself, I think it matters there too. And then the skill of, I think it's a communication skill, kind of, so difficult conversations and also being able to say what you see or say what needs to be said in moments. Those will give you massive amounts of confidence the more you do it in life. Um, People know when they come to you, they're going to get the truth. People know when they come to you, they're going to get the real, like they're going to get real help from you because you're not going to hedge. And when you're in the room, I like to think about the Stoics taught me this, which is like this idea that when you're in the room, you're like a smelly goat. People know you're there. Do you know what I mean? And I
Oh, the
quite like that
Stoics.
idea. I don't want to be smelly, but at the same time, I'd like people to know that when I'm in the room, that they're going to get the truth from me, and that I'm not going to sit on something important that needs to be said. So, mental models, changing your perspective, seeing the ability to see things differently, even just be open to it, navigating difficult conversations, and being able to get out of you what needs, saying what you see.
Mm. I wonder if you would add to that, saying what you see in a radically candid way where it can be received
Oh, so
with without the
right.
defensiveness as
So
well.
that's the skill. That's the skill piece.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just saying what you see in an unfiltered way, it's saying what you see in a way that people will actually listen to you and it will land.
Yeah.
100%. So that's the skill. This so yeah, don't just say what you see. Figure out how to say what you see in a way that actually is received by others, like you said. Um, that's the skill piece. So yes, working on that stuff I think is massive, huge. Like navigating your days, not saying what needs to be said, avoiding difficult conversations, getting locked into your perspective. This is like that's like a fork in the road, basically, isn't it? Right? Change those three things about learn those skills, and you're down a different path entirely.
Yeah. So you mentioned for the first skill, is it Shane? What was the resource?
Parish.
Shane Parrish. Is there a
Shane
certain
Parish.
resource by him you recommend
He
people
does
find?
this one called The Great Mental Models, which I think is a good place to start. But his most recent book is called Clear Thinking or something like that.
Okay.
Thinking clearly, clear thinking, something like that. It's all about mental models and making better decisions and thinking, just thinking more clearly. Great book. It's one of the better sort of like kind of airport books, I would say. But his book on mental models is great. It's like the nine great mental models or something like that. It's really good.
Yeah. And then is there a resource you would suggest people start with for difficult conversations,
Yeah.
personally, and saying what you see?
So difficult conversations, I think, is good. So from a professional sense, I would go for Kim Scott on that, which is Radical Candor. Um, keeping in mind that a lot of her work is all about internal conversations, like leadership conversations, but you can use the framework in personal conversations too. I love it.
Definitely.
I think it's great. And then I think we're back to Brené Brown. Brené Brown does it in her book. She's got great tools and frameworks for having difficult conversations with people as well. Um, and then the skill of saying what you see is, I would argue, the resource there is,
Besides your book, of course.
well, yeah, I'm kind of going that road here in my head. I don't know that it's explicit in my book. There is a skill. There is a skill for being able to say what needs to be said in a way that other people respond. We don't have time to unpack it here, but I would say, just to give you an insight on it, it almost always starts with a question.
Any books that help that question mindset?
The question mindset, so the real, so it's back to a mental model, the idea that you can see the world as a question, which is ultimately about being curious, right? And oh God, we're back to philosophy again, almost like Socrates was the ultimate question asker, right? Um, is there a book or a resort? This is a tough one. I don't know that there's an exact one
You know, the
that
one that
tells you that,
comes for me
yeah.
is
Mhm.
The Advice Trap by Michael Bungay Stanier.
Right. The coaching habit is probably a good one as well to start with. Yeah, the coaching habit. That title should really just be like the 7 questions that everybody needs in their back pocket, really, to be honest, that book. Yeah, I would say Michael Bungay Stanier's probably got one of the most popular books on the idea that every conversation is a question. Yeah, you're right. I would say that's probably the state. It's probably I think that is the best-selling book in that market for that particular topic, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, that's a good one. It slipped my mind. Yes.
Classics.
Yep.
Okay. Really great resources. We'll link to them. Uh and there's also talks on these. There's audiobooks on these. If somebody is like, oh, I don't
Oh
want
yeah.
to read 3 books, you can listen to a talk on YouTube,
Yeah.
and digest it that way as well.
Yeah, I would recommend that you, like, when I do my book club, for example, I encourage people to get the book, obviously, but I ship every week in the book club, I ship them a video to watch as well. I'm like, go and hear and see the author telling his stories, the nuance, get to know them really well. I sort of immerse myself in authors' worlds. Like, I'll take an author and I'll just like buy all their books and go right through them all, watch all their interviews. That's me, but it's just like it is quite interesting to immerse yourself in their world for a little bit. You do pick up more, and it does stick. I think it sticks more as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Thanks again for tuning in for this conversation with Chris Marr, the authoritative coach. I'll post some links in the show notes and the description where you can learn more about Chris. You can even take one of his assessments that he's created to help you figure out, are you a people pleaser? And if you are, what's your plan to get back to a place of being able to communicate clearly and being someone that your clients or the people around you can really trust? So I'll pop that link in the description, and along with his information. If you want to follow up with him, his Instagram is The Authoritative Coach, and his website is theauthoritative.coach.com. Thanks for tuning in today, and until our next episode, take care. I'll see you then.